Raindrops hit the window of the transport vehicle as Alex watched the strange buildings of Europa Colony grow larger. The 16-year-old had never seen anything like this place before. Huge glass domes covered the moon's surface like giant bubbles. Inside each dome, Alex could see different types of alien creatures moving around. Alex's hover chair made a soft humming sound as the transport came to a stop. The chair was the only way Alex could move around since the accident 3 years ago. A drunk driver had hit their family car, and Alex's legs had never worked again. But Alex had learned something special after the accident. Animals and alien creatures seemed to understand Alex better than most humans did. "Are you ready for this?" asked Dr. Maria Santos, Alex's mother. She was a scientist who studied how different species could talk to each other without words. The Galactic Creature Rehabilitation Center had asked her to visit because of her research. Alex nodded and followed their mother out of the transport. The air on Europa smelled clean but strange, like metal and something sweet Alex couldn't name. The hover chair moved smoothly over the walkway toward the main building. A tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms met them at the entrance. This was Dex, a Centauran who ran the shelter. His species looked almost human except for the extra arms and the way their eyes changed color when they talked. "Welcome to our facility," Dex said in perfect English. "We have over 300 rescued creatures here from 40 different worlds. Many of them were taken from their homes and sold as slaves or fighting animals. As they walked through the first dome, Alex saw creatures that looked like living crystals. They made sad singing, sounds that made Alex's heart hurt. In another area, furry animals with 6 legs limped around their enclosure. These had been used in illegal fighting matches before being rescued. Each species needs different care, Dex explained. Some need special air to breathe, others eat only certain types of food, but the hardest part is helping them trust again after what they went through. Alex listened carefully while watching the creatures. Many of them came closer to the barrier when Alex's hover chair passed by. A few even made friendly sounds. This always happened around Alex, but most people thought it was just coincidence. They visited several more domes filled with amazing creatures. There were floating jellyfish-like beings from the Andromeda Galaxy who glowed different colors based on their feelings. Purple meant sad, yellow meant scared, and blue meant curious. When Alex rolled past, several of them turned a soft green color that Dex said meant peaceful. In another dome, reptilian creatures with feathers instead of scales huddled together in groups. They had been rescued from a planet where their eggs were being stolen and sold as expensive food. The mothers refused to lay new eggs because they were too afraid. "Your presence seems to calm them," Dex noticed as the feathered reptiles stopped their nervous pacing and looked at Alex with interest. Instead of fear, Alex smiled. "They know I understand what it's like to feel different." After 2 hours of touring, they reached a restricted area marked with warning signs in 12 different languages. Red lights flashed above the entrance, and 2 security guards stood nearby. Alex felt something pulling at their mind, like a voice calling from far away. "What's in there?" Alex asked. Dex's 4 arms crossed in front of his chest, and his eyes turned a worried orange color. "That section is off limits to visitors. We have our most difficult case there." "Difficult how?" "A dragon," Dex said quietly. "A real draconian. From the Outer Rim territories. His name is Raven." Alex's eyes went wide. Dragons were legendary throughout the galaxy. Most people had only heard stories about the proud, intelligent species that could fly between worlds using their own wings. They were said to be incredibly smart and could live for thousands of years. Dragons disappeared from known space over a century ago, Dr. Santos said. "How did you find one?" Dex's eyes turned deep purple, which Alex had learned meant very sad. "We found him in the cargo hold of a slave ship 6 months ago. He was kept in a cage so small he couldn't even spread his wings. Our experts think he was trapped there for 50 years or more." Alex felt sick thinking about any creature trapped in a small space for so long. Being stuck in a wheelchair was nothing compared to that kind of prison. "Is he dangerous?" Alex asked. "Not dangerous," Dex replied. "Just broken. He won't eat much, won't interact with our staff, won't even move around his habitat. He just lies in the same spot day after day. Our doctors think he's given up hope." The pulling feeling in Alex's mind got stronger. Something about this dragon called to them in a way Alex had never felt before. "I want to see him," Alex said. "Absolutely not," Dex replied quickly. "Even though he's not aggressive, he's still a dragon. One accident could be fatal. Besides, our best experts have tried everything. What could you possibly do that they haven't?" Alex looked toward the restricted area, feeling that strange pull getting stronger. Maybe he doesn't need an expert. Maybe he just needs someone who understands what it feels like to be trapped. Dr. Santos put her hand on Alex's shoulder. "Honey, I know you have a gift with animals, but this is different. Dragons are incredibly intelligent. They're not like the creatures we've seen today. That's exactly why I need to try," Alex said firmly. "Smart creatures suffer more because they understand their situation better. He knows he's trapped and he knows why. That kind of pain needs something more than medical treatment." Dex looked at Dr. Santos, then back at Alex. His eyes cycled through several colors before settling on a thoughtful green. "I would need special permission from the center's board," he said slowly, "and there would be strict safety protocols. Armed guards, emergency medical teams standing by, reinforced barriers." "Whatever it takes," Alex said. "I think he's calling to me." As they left the facility that day, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the dragon named Raven. That night, lying in bed back at their hotel, Alex dreamed of golden eyes filled with ancient sadness and wings that had forgotten how to fly. 3 days of meetings and paperwork later, Alex finally got permission to see the dragon. The hoverchair moved quietly through the empty corridors of the restricted section. It was early morning, and most of the staff hadn't arrived yet. Alex had asked to come at this time when there would be fewer people around. Dr. Santos walked beside the chair, carrying a medical scanner and emergency supplies. 2 security guards followed behind, their weapons ready but not drawn. Dex led the group, his eyes showing nervous yellow flashes. "Remember," Dex said as they stopped in front of a large metal door, "you must stay at least 10 feet away from him at all times. If he makes any sudden movements, we're pulling you out immediately." The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Alex's breath caught in their throat. The habitat was enormous, designed to look like a mountain cave with real rocks, and a small waterfall. Artificial sunlight streamed through crystals in the ceiling, making everything glow softly. But Alex only had eyes for the creature in the center of the space. Raven was the most beautiful and heartbreaking sight Alex had ever seen. The dragon was massive, easily 30 feet from nose to tail tip. His scales should have been brilliant gold and crimson according to the pictures Alex had studied, but now they looked dull and gray. Several scars crossed his hide, evidence of the cruel treatment he'd endured. His wings were folded tight against his body. The left wing looked normal, but the right one bent at a wrong angle where it had been broken and healed poorly. His neck, which should have been held high with pride, drooped toward the ground. But it was his eyes that made Alex's heart break. Ancient amber eyes that had seen too much pain, looked at nothing. Raven lay motionless on the artificial stone, his breathing slow and shallow. "How long has he been like this?" Alex whispered. "Every day since we brought him here," Dex replied sadly. "He moved to that exact spot on his first day and hasn't left it since. We put food and water nearby, but he only eats enough to survive." Alex moved the hover chair closer to the barrier that separated them from the dragon. The moment Alex appeared in Raven's line of sight, something changed. For the first time in months, the dragon lifted his great head and looked directly at Alex. There, eyes met across the space, and Alex felt something incredible happen. It was like a door opening in their mind. Suddenly, Alex could feel what the dragon was feeling, not just sadness, but a deep emptiness that came from losing all hope. Raven's eyes widened slightly. He could feel the connection, too. Remarkable, Dr. Santos breathed. Look at his body language. He's actually responding. Very slowly, Raven shifted his position. It was the first time he had moved voluntarily since his rescue. He turned his body slightly toward Alex, his head tilting in a curious gesture that reminded Alex of a giant cat. "Hello, Raven," Alex said softly. "I'm Alex." The dragon's ears perked up at the sound of his name. Through their strange connection, Alex could feel Raven's surprise. Most humans who came to see him spoke about him as if he couldn't understand. They discussed his condition and treatment plans, but never spoke directly to him. "I know you can understand me," Alex continued. "Dex told me about where they found you. I'm sorry that happened to you." Raven made a soft sound, barely louder than a whisper. It was the first vocalization he'd made since arriving at the center. Alex felt waves of emotion coming from the dragon: confusion, hope, fear of being disappointed again. Raven had been hurt so many times that he was afraid to trust this new feeling. "I know what it's like to feel trapped," Alex said, patting the side of their hover chair. 3 years ago, I could run and jump and climb trees. Then everything changed in one day. For a long time, I thought my real life was over." Raven's head came up higher, his amber eyes focusing intently on Alex. Through their connection, Alex could feel the dragon's interest growing stronger. "The doctors said I'd never walk again. My friends didn't know how to act around me anymore. Some people looked at me with pity, others just looked away completely. I felt like I'd become invisible, like the person I used to be had died in that accident." The dragon made another soft sound, this one almost like a question. "But I learned something important," Alex continued. "Being different doesn't mean being broken. It just means finding new ways to be whole." Raven slowly pushed himself up from his lying position into a sitting posture. The movement was clearly painful, but he did it anyway. His eyes never left Alex's face. Through their mental connection, Alex began to understand Raven's story. Images flashed in Alex's mind, memories of soaring through purple skies, of dancing with other dragons among the clouds, of a mate with silver blue scales who sang in harmonies that made the stars seem to pulse. Then came the darker memories. The attack on his world by slave traders, being caught in an energy net while trying to protect younger dragons. The cage that was barely large enough for his body, where he'd spent decades unable to spread his wings or stand fully upright. But the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was the gradual death of hope. Year after year, Raven had waited for rescue that never came. He'd watched other creatures come and go from the slave trader's ship while he remained. Eventually, he'd stopped believing that freedom was possible. "You survived," Alex said, tears running down their cheeks. "For 50 years, you survived when giving up would have been easier. That makes you the strongest being I've ever met." Raven's eyes began to glow slightly, a sign that dragon emotions were stirring for the first time in months. He extended his neck toward Alex, moving as close to the barrier as he could get. "Alex," Dr. Santos warned, "be careful." But Alex wasn't afraid. Through their connection, they could feel that Raven meant no harm. The dragon was simply trying to get closer to the first creature who had spoken to him as an equal in decades. Raven pressed his snout gently against the transparent barrier that separated them. Alex reached out and placed their palm against the barrier on the other side, directly opposite the dragon's nose. The moment their hands were as close as possible, both Alex and Raven felt a surge of warmth and understanding. They weren't the same species, they hadn't lived the same experiences, but they recognized something fundamental in each other. Both had faced the loss of their physical freedom. Both had been seen as less than whole because of their limitations. And both had refused to let those limitations define their worth. For the first time in 6 months, Raven made a sound of contentment, a deep, rumbling purr that vibrated through the entire habitat. "I'll come back tomorrow," Alex promised. "If you want me to." Raven's response came not in words but in feelings transmitted through their bond. Yes, he wanted Alex to return. For the first time since his capture, he had something to look forward to. 2 weeks had passed since Alex first met Raven, and the changes were impossible to ignore. The dragon who had once spent every day motionless now moved around his habitat regularly. He drank more water, ate his meals completely, and even tested his damaged wing with careful stretches. But the most remarkable change was in his eyes. The dull, hopeless stare had been replaced by alertness and curiosity. Whenever Alex arrived for their daily visits, Raven would immediately move to the barrier and wait with obvious excitement. Today was different, though. After much discussion and several safety briefings, Alex had finally received permission to enter Raven's habitat directly. The hover chair moved slowly through the specially installed airlock, while Alex's heart pounded with nervous excitement. Dr. Santos stood in the observation room above, monitoring every vital sign through sensors, attached to both Alex and Raven. 2 guards were stationed just outside the habitat entrance, ready to intervene if necessary. But Alex felt no fear. Through their growing bond, they could sense Raven's emotional state clearly, and the dragon radiated nothing but gentle anticipation. The inner door opened, and Alex rolled into the habitat for the first time. The space felt different from inside, larger, more alive. The sound of the artificial waterfall echoed off the stone walls, and the light from the ceiling crystals painted everything in warm, golden colors. Raven sat about 20 feet away, his posture perfectly still. He was clearly controlling himself carefully, not wanting to frighten Alex or give the observers any reason to end the visit early. "Hello, Raven," Alex said softly, moving the hover chair to a comfortable distance. "Thank you for waiting so patiently." The dragon's response came as a warm wave of happiness through their mental connection. Alex had learned that Raven's species communicated as much through shared emotions as through sounds or gestures. Alex began to talk, sharing stories about life on Earth before the accident. They described running through forests, swimming in lakes, and climbing mountains with their family. But they also talked about the challenges that came after. Learning to navigate the world from a wheelchair, dealing with people's assumptions, and finding new ways to do things they loved. Raven listened intently, his great head tilted to catch every word. Through their bond, he shared his own memories in return. Alex saw images of Raven's homeworld, vast purple skies filled with flying dragons, crystal cities built into mountainsides, and aerial dances that looked like living poetry. But Raven also shared something more personal. Before his capture, he had been what his people called a guardian, a dragon responsible for protecting younger members of their clan. The guilt of failing in that duty, of being captured while others escaped, had haunted him throughout his imprisonment. "You didn't fail," Alex said firmly, understanding Raven's feelings. "You were overwhelmed by superior technology and numbers. There was nothing more you could have done." Raven made a low, mournful sound. Through their connection, Alex felt his self-doubt and shame. "Listen to me," Alex continued, moving the hover chair slightly closer. "I used to blame myself for my accident, too. I kept thinking about all the things I could have done differently that day. What if I'd asked my mom to take a different route? What if I'd convinced my family to leave 5 minutes later? But all those what-ifs don't change what happened. They just make the pain worse." The dragon's amber eyes focused intently on Alex's face. "The accident wasn't my fault, and your capture wasn't yours either. Bad things happen sometimes. even to good people who are trying their best. The only choice we have is what we do after." Raven slowly lowered his great head until his snout was only a few feet from Alex's chair. This close, Alex could see the intricate patterns in his scales and feel the warmth of his breath. Very carefully, Raven extended one claw and gently touched the armrest of Alex's hover chair. The gesture was incredibly delicate for such a large creature. He was asking for permission to make physical contact. Alex reached out and placed their hand on Raven's claw. The dragon's skin was surprisingly smooth and warm, like polished stone, that had been sitting in sunlight. The moment their skin touched, their mental connection deepened dramatically. Suddenly, Alex could feel everything Raven was experiencing: the gradual healing of old injuries, the stretch of muscles that hadn't been used in decades, and most importantly, the return of hope. In return, Raven experienced Alex's world through human senses. He felt the vibration of the hover chair's engines, the texture of the fabric seats, and the particular way Alex had learned to navigate the world from a seated position. "You're not broken," Alex whispered. "Neither of us is broken. We're just different from what we used to be." Raven made a sound Alex had never heard before, a complex harmony that seemed to combine purring, singing, and something almost like laughter. It was, Alex realized, the sound of joy returning to a soul that had forgotten how to feel it. Over the next hour, they continued to share experiences and emotions. Raven showed Alex memories of flight, the feeling of wind beneath wings, the freedom of soaring between clouds, the pure joy of movement in 3 dimensions. Alex, in turn, shared the different kind of freedom they'd found in their hover chair. The ability to move independently, to explore new places, to prove that physical limitations didn't have to mean life limitations. "I have an idea," Alex said suddenly. "Would you like to try something?" Raven's curiosity spiked through their bond. Alex maneuvered the hover chair to an open area of the habitat, then activated its maximum height setting. The chair rose until Alex was sitting about 8 feet off the ground, not high enough to fly, but high enough to see the world from a new perspective. "It's not the same as flying," Alex said, "but it's still pretty amazing." Raven watched with fascination, then did something unexpected. He spread his wings, both the good one and the damaged one, as wide as he could manage. The damaged wing couldn't extend fully, but he held both wings out proudly. For a moment, dragon and human hovered together in their own ways, Alex supported by technology, Raven by memory and determination. It was then that Alex realized the truth they'd both been searching for. Freedom wasn't about returning to exactly what they'd been before their injuries. It was about finding new ways to soar. "Tomorrow," Alex said as they prepared to leave, "I'm going to ask if we can take you outside. Not to leave, but just to feel real sunlight and breathe real air. You've been inside too long." Raven's emotional response was so strong that Alex felt tears spring to their eyes. Through their bond came waves of gratitude, excitement, and something even more powerful: trust. The dragon trusted Alex completely. After decades of betrayal and imprisonment, Raven was willing to hope again because one human in a hover chair had seen him not as a broken creature to be pitied, but as a fellow survivor to be respected. As Alex left the habitat that day, they heard something that made the entire facility stop and listen. For the first time since his rescue, Raven was singing, a low, haunting melody that dragon voices had once used to call to each other across vast distances. He was calling out, not in despair, but in hope. And somehow, Alex knew they would find a way to answer. The morning air on Europa felt different today, carrying scents from the various domes and the excitement of something special happening. Today was the day Raven would leave his habitat for the first time since his rescue. Alex arrived early, finding the dragon already awake and pacing nervously around his space. "Good morning," Alex called through their mental connection rather than speaking aloud. Over the past month, their bond had grown so strong that words weren't always necessary. Raven's response came as a mixture of excitement and worry. He wanted desperately to go outside, but 50 years of captivity had made him afraid of open spaces. What if the slave traders came back? What if he panicked and hurt someone? What if his damaged wing made him fall? "I'll be right there with you," Alex promised, moving the hover chair closer to the habitat entrance. "We don't have to go far, just outside the dome to feel real sunlight." Dr. Santos arrived with a team of medical personnel and several xenobiologists who had come from other colonies to witness this historic moment. No dragon had been seen in open space for over a century, and Raven's first steps toward freedom would be recorded for scientific study. But Alex wasn't thinking about history or science. They were focused entirely on their friend's emotional state, sending calm and confidence through their bond. The habitat's main door opened slowly. Raven approached it carefully, his claws clicking on the stone floor. At the threshold, he stopped completely, his body tense with fear. The doorway led to a corridor, then to an airlock, then to the outside of the dome. It was a path to freedom, but also to the unknown. Raven hadn't made choices about where to go in so long that the simple act of walking through a door felt overwhelming. "Remember what flying used to feel like?" Alex asked through their connection. "Remember the wind and the open sky?" Images flowed from Raven's memory, soaring through clouds, diving toward crystal-clear lakes, racing other dragons through canyon walls. His wings twitched slightly, muscle memory responding to the mental pictures. "That feeling is still inside you," Alex continued. "It never left. Your body might be different now, but your spirit is still a dragon spirit." Very slowly, Raven took his first step out of the habitat, then another. His breathing was quick and shallow, but he kept moving forward. Alex rolled alongside him, their hover chair matching the dragon's careful pace. The corridor felt endless to both of them. Raven had to stop several times to calm his racing heart, and Alex waited patiently during each pause. The medical team followed at a distance, monitoring everything but staying quiet. Finally, they reached the airlock that led outside. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see Europa's surface stretching toward the horizon. The real sun, not artificial light, painted everything in natural colors. Raven pressed his snout against the window, his breath fogging the surface. Through their bond, Alex felt his wonder and longing. "Ready?" Alex asked. Raven nodded, a very human gesture he'd learned from watching Alex. The airlock cycled, and the outer door slid open. Natural sunlight flooded in, warmer and brighter than anything inside the domes. A gentle breeze carried scents of growing things from the agricultural domes nearby. Raven stepped out onto Europa's surface and immediately spread both wings as wide as he could manage. His damaged wing couldn't extend fully, but he held it out proudly anyway. For the first time in 50 years, he felt unfiltered sunlight on his scales and real wind beneath his wings. The sound he made was indescribable, part roar, part song, part prayer of gratitude. It echoed across the colony, and creatures in every dome responded with their own calls. Even the humans who heard it felt their eyes fill with tears. Alex watched their friend embrace his first taste of freedom and felt their own hearts soar. Through their bond, they experienced Raven's joy as if it were their own. "How does it feel?" Alex asked. Raven's response came not in words or images, but in pure emotion, overwhelming gratitude, fierce joy, and something Alex recognized as love. Not romantic love, but the deep affection between souls who had saved each other. The dragon began to move across the open ground, his steps growing more confident with each stride. His damaged wing made his gait slightly uneven, but he moved, with increasing grace and power. Alex followed, the hover chair handling the rough terrain easily. They explored for an hour, Raven investigating rocks and plants while Alex shared stories about Earth's outdoors. The dragon showed particular interest in a small grove of earth, trees that had been planted near the colony. He sniffed their bark carefully, comparing their scent to the forests of his homeworld. But the most remarkable moment came when Raven attempted to fly. He positioned himself on a small rise, spread his wings, and launched himself into the air. The damaged wing couldn't provide full lift, but he managed to glide about 50 feet before landing gracefully. It wasn't the soaring flight of his youth, but it was flight nonetheless. Alex cheered, and through their bond, Raven felt their pride and excitement as strongly as his own accomplishment. "You did it," Alex said, rolling up to where Raven had landed. "You're flying again." Raven lowered his great head and gently nuzzled Alex's shoulder. The gesture conveyed everything words couldn't: gratitude for believing in him, friendship, deeper than species barriers, and a promise that this was only the beginning. As they prepared to return to the facility, Alex made a decision that surprised everyone, including themselves. "Raven," they said aloud so the observers could hear, "when you're ready to leave this place permanently, I want to go with you," Dr. Santos gasped. "Alex, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that Raven and I belong together," Alex replied firmly. "We've helped each other heal, and we're stronger together than apart. If he's willing to have me as a partner, I want to spend my life helping other creatures the way we've helped each other." Raven's response, through their bond, was immediate and overwhelming: joy, acceptance, and determination. Yes, he wanted Alex as his permanent companion. More than that, he wanted to use their unique partnership to help other beings who had lost hope. The dragon began to speak, his voice rusty from disuse, but still carrying the deep, musical tones of his species. "Alex, my friend, my heart companion, you gave me back my sky. Now we fly together, different ways, same sky." It was the first time Raven had spoken aloud since his rescue, and his words carried the weight of an ancient vow. In dragon culture, choosing a permanent companion from another species was rare and sacred. It meant binding their lives together until death. Dr. Santos looked at her child, seeing the determination and happiness in their eyes. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" Alex looked at Raven, who touched their shoulder gently with one claw. Through their bond flowed mutual love, respect, and an unshakable commitment to face whatever came next together. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," Alex said. "We were both broken when we met. Now we're both whole, just in new ways. And together, we can help others find their wholeness too." Raven rumbled his agreement, then did something that amazed everyone present. He carefully positioned himself next to Alex's hover chair and extended his wing like a protective canopy over his human companion. Dragon and human sat together under Europa's sky, no longer thinking of themselves as disabled or damaged, but as partners ready to face the galaxy together. They had found in each other not just friendship, but a shared purpose that would define the rest of their lives. The broken dragon and the paralyzed human had become something neither could have. Been alone, a team that proved healing comes not from returning to what you were, but from discovering what you can become. 6 months later, the courtroom on Titan Station buzzed with activity unlike anything in galactic legal history. Representatives from dozens of worlds had gathered to witness the formal hearing that would determine Raven's future. The dragon sat calmly in the specially constructed defendant's area, with Alex's hover chair positioned right beside him. The case had drawn attention throughout known space. A dragon, a species thought extinct, had been rescued and rehabilitated through an unprecedented bond with a human teenager. Now the question was whether Raven would be free to choose his own path or be required to return to the hidden dragon colonies that had recently revealed themselves. Alex held Raven's claw gently, sending waves of calm and confidence through their mental bond. They had spent the last months preparing for this day, working with lawyers, xenobiologists, and dragon cultural experts to present their case. The presiding judge was a wise old Andromedan whose species was known for their fairness in interspecies disputes. She had reviewed thousands of pages of documentation about Raven's recovery and his unusual partnership with Alex. This court has heard extensive testimony about the defendant's rehabilitation, Judge Kayla announced in her melodious voice. The medical evidence shows remarkable recovery from severe psychological trauma. The question before us today is whether Raven of the Outer Rim Dragons is legally free to make his own choices about his future. The dragon advocate, speaking for the hidden colonies, stood to address the court. He was an elderly dragon named Theron, whose golden scales marked him as an elder of his people. Your Honor, Theron began, his voice carrying the deep harmonics of his species. We do not question our kinsman's recovery or the remarkable bond he has formed with the human Alex Santos. However, Raven is the last known survivor of his particular clan. His genetic lineage and cultural knowledge are irreplaceable treasures that belong to all dragonkind. Alex felt Raven's discomfort through their bond. The idea of being valued only for his genetic material rather than as an individual brought back painful memories of his captivity. We offer Raven a place of honor among our people, Theron continued. He would want for nothing and would be free to share his experiences with our historians and healers. His offspring could help restore what was lost when the Outer Rim colonies fell. Judge Kayla nodded thoughtfully, then turned to Alex and Raven. How do you respond to this generous offer? Alex squeezed Raven's claw gently, then stood to address the court. At 18 now, Alex had grown into a confident young adult whose experiences with Raven had shaped them into a powerful advocate for the rights of all beings. Your Honor, I understand why the dragon colonies want Raven to join them. But with respect, they're making the same mistake the slave traders made, treating him as property instead of as a person. Murmurs ran through the courtroom. Alex continued firmly. Raven spent 50 years being told he had no choices, no freedom, no right to decide his own fate. Are we really going to rescue him from one cage just to put him in another, even if this one is more comfortable? Raven rose to his feet, his damaged wing held proudly despite its limitations. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of his ancient species, but also the wisdom gained through suffering and recovery. Elder Theron speaks of duty to my people, Raven said slowly. But my people are not just dragons. Alex Santos is my heart companion, chosen freely when I thought I would never choose anything again. The creatures at the rehabilitation center who have found hope through our work together, they are my people too. Alex felt tears spring to their eyes at Raven's words. The dragon continued, I honor my heritage and my species, but I will not honor them by abandoning the being who saved my soul. Alex and I have found a purpose together, helping others who have lost hope find their way back to wholeness. This is my choice, made freely, and I ask this court to respect it. Judge Kayla leaned forward with interest. Tell the court more about this work you've been doing together. Alex activated a holographic display that showed images from the past 6 months. We've developed a new approach to rehabilitation for severely traumatized beings. Traditional medical treatment helps with physical healing, but psychological trauma, especially the kind that comes from losing hope, needs something different. The images showed various creatures at the rehabilitation center. A crystalline being from the Vega system who had refused to communicate for months now sang healing songs to other patients. Feathered reptiles who had cowered in fear now played together in their enclosure. Dozens of other species showed remarkable improvement after spending time with Alex and Raven. The key is empathy, Alex explained. When creatures see that we understand their pain because we've experienced our own, they begin to trust again. Raven and I don't just treat their symptoms. We show them that survival itself is a form of victory. Dr. Santos stood from the gallery. Your Honor, I've documented the results of their work. Recovery rates have improved by over 300% for cases involving severe psychological trauma. What my child and Raven have developed could revolutionize how we help beings throughout the galaxy. Judge Kayla studied the data carefully. These results are indeed remarkable. But Elder Theron, does this change your position regarding Raven's obligations to his species? The old dragon was quiet for a long moment, his scales shifting color as he considered. Finally, he spoke with obvious reluctance. The work they describe is significant. But surely Raven could contribute to dragon society while also pursuing these interests. Perhaps a compromise where he spends part of his time with us and part with his human companion? Raven's response came immediately and firmly. No compromise. Alex cannot travel to dragon worlds. The gravity and atmosphere would be deadly for humans. And I will not leave my partner for months at a time. We are stronger together than apart. Alex felt a surge of warmth through their bond. Raven was willing to give up contact with his own species rather than abandon their partnership. There's something else, Alex said, addressing both the court and Elder Theron. Raven isn't the only dragon who survived the destruction of the Outer Rim colonies. Through our rehabilitation work, we've identified 3 other dragons who are currently being held in facilities throughout the galaxy. They've been disguised as other reptilian species because no one expected to find living dragons. The courtroom erupted in shocked whispers. Elder Theron's scales went completely white with surprise. 3 others, he breathed. Are you certain? Completely certain, Alex replied. Raven recognized their emotional signatures when we showed him recordings of unidentified creatures. With the court's permission, we'd like to mount rescue operations to bring them to the rehabilitation center. Judge Kayla raised her hand for silence. This changes the situation considerably. Elder Theron, if there are indeed other survivors, would that affect your position on Raven's freedom to choose? The old dragon looked at Raven with new respect. You would risk your own comfort and safety to rescue kinsmen you've never met? They are family, Raven replied simply. As Alex is family. As all the creatures we help are family. I will not choose between them. Elder Theron closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with obvious emotion. Your Honor, I withdraw our request for Raven's return. If he chooses to dedicate his life to rescuing others and healing trauma, then he honors our species more than he ever could by simply producing offspring. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Kayla considered her decision. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, she spoke. This court finds that Raven of the Outer Rim Dragons is legally free to make his own choices regarding his future. His recovery from severe trauma, his ability to form meaningful relationships, and his dedication to helping others demonstrate that he is fully capable of self-determination. Alex felt tears of relief streaming down their face as Raven's joy flooded through their bond. Furthermore, Judge Kayla continued, this court authorizes the rescue operations described by Alex Santos and directs all galactic authorities to provide full cooperation. The work these two have done together represents hope for countless beings throughout the galaxy. As the court session ended, Elder Theron approached Raven and Alex. Up close, Alex could see tears glistening in the old dragon's ancient eyes. I owe you both an apology, he said softly. I was so focused on preserving our past that I nearly prevented you from building our future. What you've accomplished together, it's exactly what our species needs to heal from our own trauma. Raven touched his elder's shoulder gently with one claw. You wanted to protect our people. That's not wrong, but Alex taught me that sometimes the best way to honor what we've lost is to use that experience to prevent others from losing what they love. 6 months later, Alex and Raven stood in the central dome of what had become the galaxy's first empathic rehabilitation center. 4 dragons now lived there, all rescued from various forms of captivity. Hundreds of other creatures had found healing through their revolutionary approach to trauma recovery. Alex, now 19, had been accepted to the Galactic University's xenopsychology program. They would study while continuing their work with Raven, developing new techniques for interspecies emotional healing. "Do you ever regret your choice?" Alex asked through their bond, as they watched the rescued dragons playing together in the artificial sky of their dome. Raven's response came wrapped in so much love and contentment that Alex had to steady themselves against the wave of emotion. "Never," Raven replied, both aloud and through their connection. "I was born to fly, and I thought that when my wing was damaged, I could never truly fly again. But you taught me that there are many ways to soar. Watching broken beings become whole again, seeing hope return to eyes that had forgotten how to dream. This is flying at its highest form." Alex smiled, watching their partner demonstrate a flying technique to one of the newly rescued dragons. Raven's damaged wing still couldn't support full flight, but he had adapted, using his good wing and careful positioning to achieve a kind of controlled gliding that was uniquely his own. "We're both different from what we used to be," Alex said. "But I think we're better." "Much better," Raven agreed, landing gracefully beside Alex's hover chair. "We are proof that healing doesn't mean going back to what we were. It means becoming what we're meant to be." As the artificial sun set in their dome, dragon and human sat together watching their extended family of rescued beings. They had found in each other not just friendship or partnership, but a shared calling that transformed their individual traumas into collective healing. The paralyzed human and the broken dragon had redefined freedom itself, not as the absence of limitations, but as the power to choose how those limitations would shape them. And in making that choice together, they had given the same gift of hope to countless others throughout the galaxy. Their story had become legend, but to Alex and Raven, it was simply the beginning of a life dedicated to proving that no being, no matter how damaged, how different, or how lost, was ever truly beyond redemption.